I can't hear anything. Are you getting anything your end?
Testing. I can't hear anything.
Aha! No, I see what I've done. I just have to flip that little setting there. Sorry, bear with me. I'll just do one tick.
Hold on. My booth dog just farted. He's gotta go. I'll be right back.
Voice acting unplugged.
Hello, and welcome to Voice Acting Unplugged, the podcast where we delve deep into the world of voice acting and discover where we're going, apart from anything else. I'm joined by my delectable co-host, Margaret. Hello, Margaret.
Hello, Anthony. You got me another delectable in there.
Why not?
I'll have to think of some words to describe you.
Bald words.
Hi. I wouldn't be so cruel. And we, as usual, have a wonderful voiceover guest today. He is a really lovely man. Our guest from Canada is Marc Scott. He's a full-time voice actor now, and he works mainly in commercials, YouTube's e-learning and training videos as a voice actor, but he is also a VO-preneur.
Ooh.
Do you want to explain to us, hi Mark, do you want to explain to us what a VO-preneur is?
It was a very, very deeply thought out and complicated branding process of taking voice actor and entrepreneur and combining them into one word.
Genius. Absolute genius.
I mean, the fact that I was able to figure that out without the help of AI or any other complex systems or technologies, but yeah, that's what we came up with.
Just amazing. So where did your journey into voiceover begin? Where did you first start producing voiceovers for yourself?
So I'm a radio guy. So my story is very similar to a lot of people in that, we got downsized from radio and became voice actors. But I actually started recording voiceover while I was still working in broadcast. But originally, I didn't know that that's what I was doing. It's one of those things where you work at the radio station and
just voice this promo, will you?
Yeah. Well, you do it at the station itself. But then as your network starts to grow, I started having other people reach out and say, hey, could you record this thing for me? And I'm like, yeah, no problem, whatever. And so I didn't really know at that point in time, this is probably late 90s, and I didn't really know that there was a voiceover industry or anything like that. So I was just doing recordings on the side. I built my first home studio. Oh, geez, when did I build my first home studio? It was probably like 90, 98, 99, somewhere in that area, so that I could do some of this stuff from home. But never really thought of it as anything other than just cool and an excuse to, buy some fun toys for the home office kind of thing or whatever. But yeah, then so my full-time journey started though in 2012. That was my first year full-time when my radio job came to an end. And at that point I had been doing voiceover like many radio people to create supplemental income, because most of us in radio don't make enough to survive or didn't make enough to survive. And so then when the radio job came to an end, I had multiple offers to go back into the radio business. But at that point, I was so disenfranchised with the whole industry that I was like, you know what, I'm going to, I don't know, see if I can maybe make this voiceover thing work. And so, it was the perfect opportunity to do it. Single guy, living on my own, minimal expenses. Like if you're ever going to spend a year of your life living completely broke, that's the best time to do it. And so it gave me the perfect opportunity to try to see whether or not I could turn voiceover into an actual career.
And where were your clients coming from in those early days?
In the early days, most of my stuff at that point was probably coming from online casting sites. I like to refer to those times as kind of the glory days of online casting. Where, it was a lot easier, I think, for voice actors to make a decent living on those sites, or for more voice actors to make a decent living on those sites. I don't think there was nearly the competition level or whatnot. So it was a combination of that. And then by that point in time, I had slowly started figuring out that, hey, if there are people who are hiring through online casting and, there's production companies and different things like that, it stands to reason that there's probably some more of those types of people out there who aren't familiar with online casting. And so if I could figure out how to find those people and get connected with those people, then maybe I could expand my business even further. And that's where the marketing side of things started.
Now, talking about marketing, you really have gone into it full hell for leather, haven't you? You've got yourself a marketing book, and you also help people with marketing. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Well, it sucks to be broke. And so that's a very strong motivator. And my that first year that I was full time, and the one thing that I was committed to was under no circumstances was I ever going to move back in with either of my parents. There was just not a scenario in the world where that was going to happen. And so that also was a very strong motivator. And I love my parents. I just did not want to live with them. And so that became a very strong motivator as well to start to try to figure this out. And in the beginning, I was just sending a lot of emails randomly, and there wasn't really a thought process or a plan to it. Over time, though, I recognized this is not particularly effective, but I'm sure there's a way that I can make this more effective. And so that was where I started tapping into the resources that were available to me, and following some marketing blogs, read a ton of marketing books, took a couple of marketing classes, attended a marketing conference, like just really started diving in so that I could figure out how do I leverage the power of marketing in order to be able to actually expand my business. And I think the other thing that became a real strong motivator was there was a time right around there where one of the major online casting platforms made a whole bunch of rule changes. And just like that, overnight, you had voice actors who were like six-figure earners on the site who saw their incomes drop by 60, 70% because of these rule changes. And that was a real wake-up call, too, to realize if I'm building my business exclusively on the back of somebody else's business, then is it really my business?
Yeah.
Because if they change the rules or shut down or go away. I mean, look what everybody's going through right now with this whole TikTok nonsense in the United States. And if you use that as your only source of social media and connection, and now it actually does go away, like what are you going to do at that point? And so I realized that I didn't want to find myself in that kind of a situation either. So how do I diversify where my audition opportunities and client opportunities are coming from? But also, how do I insulate them from outside influences? If I can build my own client list that I can have direct contact with, then it doesn't matter what happens in the world of online casting, or it doesn't matter if I have 10 agents or 5 agents or the right agent or whatever. I've got my own clients that I can lean into to support my business.
Now, that was kind of the era where direct emails sometimes worked. Mm-hmm. These days, not so much. So I'm guessing your approach has changed over the years.
I am still an email guy. I still do emails, and I still have results with emails. I definitely think that there is a shift that is happening, which is why I do employ other forms of marketing as well. And so I think there's still, I mean, look, there's a case to be made for cold calling, which who would believe that cold calling still works today? Mm-hmm. But it does if you do it the right way. Email still works if you do it the right way. You can build a thriving business off of a platform like LinkedIn if you do it the right way. And so I think opening yourself up to some of those different opportunities and possibilities that are out there still works. I think the way that we do email now is very different from the way that we did email 10 years ago. I think the way that you write the email, I think some of the strategies for follow-ups with emails and things of that nature, I've had to adopt over time to shifts in the industry or in the market or whatever. But a lot of these things do still work. But I'm also always looking forward. I just finished reading a book a couple of weeks ago called The Gen Z Economy. Gen Zs are getting to that point now where they're starting to enter the workforce. And this is a very, very, very different generation as far as what they've grown up with and what they know. And that is a generation that hates email.
Yeah.
That's a, I don't know, Snapchat, WhatsApp, TikTok, Instagram, like that's right. That's the generation. And so if you're going to reach those potential buyers as they become more prominent in the marketplace, yeah, you're going to have to look for strategies that will work for them as well. And so that's one of the reasons why I try to put a little bit more effort into my YouTube channel and building a content library on YouTube, and just so always thinking about what's next.
It does seem to be the way. I mean, Anthony and I discussed about when we were doing this podcast, whether just to have it as an audio or to have it in vision as well. And it does seem to be that Anthony was right. 2025
happens occasionally.
Is the year of the is the year of the video, of people wanting to watch podcasts in vision.
Yep.
And presumably that's because most people are watching on their phone.
There's certainly an element of that, but I think with Gen Z in particular, YouTube and TikTok were their search engines. So where you or I would go to Google and, try to find an answer for something on Google, this is a generation that goes to TikTok and searches it on TikTok, or goes to YouTube and searches it on YouTube. And so they're not reading content per se, they're consuming it through video. They would rather watch a video on, they'd rather watch a 60-second recipe video on TikTok than they would follow along with a recipe on Pinterest, for example. And it's little things like that. And so I definitely think that video is going to continue to become more prominent. And I think that's why, I mean, look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is pushing video now and creating a separate video feed. On X, there's been a lot of speculation because Elon Musk has doubled down on video on the platform. There's been a lot of speculation that there's going to be a dedicated video feed coming to X. Instagram used to be a photo sharing app, and now it's primarily a video app. And so everybody saw what was happening with TikTok. All these other platforms saw what was happening with TikTok and thought, we're going to get left behind if we don't figure this out. And so there's more and more of a push happening towards video for sure.
Do you adapt your content from, if you're going to put something on TikTok, is it different to what you'd put on YouTube?
I do certain things. I will adjust certain things. I might edit the length of videos. Obviously, formatting is a big deal. Trying to format the videos, whether you're going with the widescreen format or an upright format. I also think that the nature of the content can make a difference as well. So I think there's certain things that I would probably share on Instagram, certain types of videos that I would share on Instagram, for example, that I'm not specifically going to share on LinkedIn. And I think you're just taking into consideration who's the audience there and who are the people that you are trying to reach. I think the other big thing too is video works best on these platforms when it's uploaded natively to the platform. And so if you're creating a video for whatever, you've made your video and you've uploaded it to YouTube, and now your strategy is, I'm going to link to that YouTube video from LinkedIn, and I'm going to link to that YouTube video from Facebook, and I'm going to link to that video from my X account. That's not going to work as well as if you took that video, uploaded it directly to LinkedIn, uploaded it directly to Facebook, uploaded it directly to X. And that's just because every one of these social media sites, the algorithm is designed to keep you on platform longer. And so anything that you do, any type of content that you create or share that would take somebody off the platform is going to get punished by the algorithm. So I think that's the other thing to take into consideration. If your intent is, I'm going to grow this massive YouTube channel and that's all I care about, then fine, share the links back to YouTube. You're going to get a lot less reach, but ultimately you're serving your goal. But if your goal is, I just want as many people to see this video as possible, then upload it natively to every one of the different platforms and you'll get more eyeballs on it.
That's knowledge. I didn't know that. That's very, very useful. Thank you for that. So, I mean, you can always put the link at the bottom of the video anyway, so you'll still get the clicks if it's
link in the bottom or link it in the comments, and there's different strategies like that that will work.
Yeah, there's a thing on Instagram that their advice that if you are putting a reel or some other video on Instagram, you should do it on the Instagram platform because it works so much better.
And that's it. It's all these sites, they just want to keep you on platform. They're all advertising platforms, right?
Sure.
And they can't sell you ads if you're not on the platform. So they need you to stay on the platform so that they can sell you more ads. It's really that simple when it comes down to it.
Now, talking about ads, within your marketing, do you employ ads to sell your business on all these different platforms?
Yeah, I've played around with paid advertising on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and at the time it was Twitter, but X. So I've tried on all of the platforms. I would say from a voiceover side, as far as getting potential voiceover leads into my pipeline, I've definitely had the most success with LinkedIn by a pretty wide margin. On the voiceover coaching side, I've had probably the best luck with Facebook. And so I think that partly has to do with targeting, the ability to target the ads to a specific audience or whatever. And then who's the audience that's using that platform, I think is a consideration as well.
Okay, so tell us a bit about your coaching.
I recognize that marketing does not come naturally to most voice actors. We are creatives by nature, right? We would so much rather be in the booth recording than we would be sending emails or doing social media or whatever. And so when I first started down the marketing journey, I read a book by Gary Vaynerchuk, who's a legendary name in marketing. A lot of people will recognize Gary V. And Gary V said, you should write a blog. And so I was like, all right, well, if Gary V says write a blog, then I'm going to write a blog because he knows more than I do. So then I had to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to write about on my blog? And so my blog in the beginning was a combination of all the dumb things that I had done from a marketing standpoint, all the dumb things that I was doing that weren't working, and then all the things that I was learning to make it better. I was literally writing that blog because Gary V said, and I didn't think much beyond that other than, I don't know, at some point this is going to turn into something, I guess, maybe. What it ended up turning into was voice actors started thinking that I was some kind of marketing expert because I was, I don't know, one of the only guys that was writing that kind of blog at the time. And before long, I find myself waking up every day with new emails in my inbox from voice actors asking me marketing questions and wanting to know, how do I do this or how do I do that or whatever. And so the coaching was never part of the plan, but it just kind of became a natural extension of, okay, I actually have spent a lot of time and invested a lot of money and a lot of resources into learning how to do this stuff. And if I can help some other people skip that learning curve, at the end of the day, I know I've made more money in voiceover as a voice actor by a wide margin than what I would have ever made working in radio. And that was life-changing for me and my family. And so if I can help some other voice actors figure out how to do that, then I'm game. And so that's where it came from.
And that's what you do on a Friday at our time, tea time, your time, lunchtime. You give a free hour of your time to help anybody who wants to ask you any questions of any kind. Do you want to tell us more about that?
That was market research. Honestly, is a lot of what it started out as. It was trying to figure out what are voice actors struggling with the most so that I can figure out how can I create the resources that are going to help them? How can I take their questions and turn them into podcasts or turn them into a blog or turn them into social media content or whatever so that I can answer the things that they genuinely want to know about? And so I thought, well, what if I go online and spend an hour just answering questions? And, you know, they get the benefit of the advice and I get the benefit of figuring out what they need so that I can figure out how I can better help them and create better resources for them. And so Free Advice Friday was born and I don't do it every week anymore. The schedule doesn't permit specifically, but I try to at least a couple of times a month, I try to jump on YouTube and spend an hour just hanging out, answering questions. And I think one of my favorite parts about it now is that it keeps me sharp because I'm one of those people who, if I read something in a book or if I learn something from a course or whatever, it doesn't really register with me until I talk about it and share it with somebody else. And so as I'm constantly trying to research what's going on in marketing, what's the new thing, what do I need to know about X or what's happening with hashtags on LinkedIn or whatever it is, part of the way that I can internalize that then is having the opportunity to teach it and share it with other people. So I benefit from it in that way. But then I also get to see, like, again, what are voice actors struggling with? What are the questions that they want to know the answers to? If they ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, that's an indicator that, okay, that's something you need to learn about. And how are you going to figure that out so that you can come back and you can answer that, or you can find somebody who can talk about that subject intelligently and bring them on the podcast or whatever. And so I've really enjoyed doing that. And then it's given me the other thing that it gave me, again, I didn't realize it at the time because I wasn't smart enough to see it, but it gave me this massive content library that I'm able to go back to now and repurpose. And so when you've got, I don't even know, hundreds of videos of you answering questions for an hour at a time, there's a lot of content that can be pulled from that and repurposed from that, whether it's posts for Facebook or X or something that I could turn into a reel for Instagram, or becomes a podcast episode that I take that question and expand on it even further or whatever. And so that's been one of the unexpected blessings of it, is because, man, coming up with ideas is not easy, right? Trying to, you guys do a podcast, right? Like, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to figure out who am I going to have on, or what are we going to talk about, or whatever. And so having that massive content library to be able to go back to now and draw from and repurpose from, that's been a huge blessing.
I noticed that you've got a lot of presence on the web. You've got a website for your voiceover business. You've got a website for the for VOpreneur. How much effort do you think a newbie getting into this business should put into SEO and building a web presence, or is outreach and the various platforms the way forward?
If you need a new roof for your house, what's the very first thing that you're going to do? You're going to go to Google and you're going to type in roofers in my area, or roofers near me, or whatever. And the roofers that you're going to call to come and check out your roof and provide you with a quote are the ones that you found. And so in 2025, if you do not have a web presence, are you even really real? Right? Like, it's the very first thing we do for everything now. We Google it. So if I Google you and I can't find you, how do I know if you're real? How do I know if you're legitimate? How do I know if you can actually do what you say you can do? How am I supposed to find out more about you? I can't. And so that web presence, I think, is absolutely, completely essential. Now, do you need to be consistently showing up on every social media platform in existence on a daily basis or whatever? No, I don't recommend it. It'll make you mental. I speak from experience.
And you won't have any time.
Oh my gosh, it is an all-consuming thing. I've actually joked with my wife about that in the past, and I'm like, one day I'm going to retire and I'm never going to have to log into any social media platform ever again.
Yeah.
But I do think that once you have got your demos, like, your website is the next most important tool that you've got, because everything that you do is going to lead back to that. If you're direct marketing through email, you're going to point people to your website. If you're doing cold calling, you're going to probably point people to your website. If you're running ads on any of the social media platforms, those ads are going to link back to your website. If you're talking about your services on these platforms, chances are it's going to point back to your website so that they can find out more about you, find out more about your services, listen to your demos, download your demos, all that sort of stuff. So I definitely think there's massive value on the website, having the website and having the presence. I think SEO is a huge thing as well. And I will be the first to admit that that's where I dropped the ball. I have definitely dropped the ball on SEO. It actually, just before I came on with you guys, I was recording an episode of my own podcast with Gina Scarpa, and we're talking about SEO and actually talking about how that's changing in an AI world now, because and how AI is influencing SEO and influencing search results and all that sort of stuff. But she was saying, I hope I get it right, I think she said 22% of her income is direct walk-in income from her website, which is a result of her SEO. Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the easiest work you're ever going to get, right? The work that comes straight directly to you like that. That's a a buyer that's already ready to go, right? You're not having to nurture those relationships or, spend a year emailing back and forth or whatever. And so if you can get your website to a point where you're ranking for the right keywords,
Yeah.
that's a gift.
That's a mission on its own, though. I mean, the rules change so quickly.
Yep. Yeah, SEO is it's a challenge, but one of the things that Gina and I talked about was when you take away all of the nuts and bolts of it, because it can feel like a really big, daunting subject. At the end of the day, it's about writing some content that has keywords. Like in its most simplistic form, it's writing some content with the right keywords. And so that's something that I think any one of us could do if we put aside our excuses and just started writing, right? Any one of us is capable of writing 500 or 600 words or 800 words on just about any subject. And with the tools that are available to us now, AI tools and the internet and Google searches and all that sort of stuff, like it shouldn't be that hard to come up with that content. And so if you can do that, if you have the discipline to actually sit down and do that and put the right keywords in, it can make a big difference. And I know several voice actors who have self-taught SEO way beyond, just the basics of, write a blog or whatever. And it does represent a significant portion of their income now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the problem with voice actors is that we nearly all have the same keywords. So it's how do you leapfrog over anybody else?
You got to niche down. And that is one of the big parts of it is niching down, right? It's not enough to just be the British female voice actor. It's maybe you're coming up with specific keywords that describe your vocal tone, or maybe it's specific niches that you think that you could really narrow down into, or things of that, right? It's which that's part of the marketing side, is figuring out, how do I sell myself? What's my unique value proposition? Every voice actor's got pro demos, and every voice actor's got a pro studio, and every voice actor can offer quick turnaround, and everybody's got a Source Connect badge on their website, right? So we're all offering the same thing. So what do we bring to the table that is actually different? What do we bring to the table that does make us stand out? And that's one of the things from a marketing standpoint that we have to figure out and find where our niches are.
Yeah, it's tough.
It'd be so much easier if we could just sit and audition all day and book work and, cash invoices but the industry has evolved. I think I didn't, because of when I started. So late 90s was probably late 90s, really early 2000s, I guess, maybe was when I started using some of the online casting sites. And so the industry had already evolved at that point. Online casting was a disruption, right? And so
Yeah.
the glory days of just getting the agent and sitting back and just letting them do everything. There are still voice actors, obviously, that live that life. I am definitely not one of them. But the one thing that I think, as I've done this, for whatever, it's been 20 some odd years or whatever, is that the hustle doesn't get any easier.
No.
Because even being able to just go on online casting and make your living exclusively off of online casting, it's just not the reality for a lot of people now. You've got to have access to opportunities in other places. And so whether you're going to spend your time learning how to email, or spend your time becoming an influencer on LinkedIn, or spend your time trying to create videos for Instagram or YouTube, or you're going to spend your time learning how to do SEO and writing for your website, like somewhere along the way, you got to put in some hustle.
Sure. You mentioned AI.
Mm-hmm.
From your perspective, is this a wonderful new tool or a slightly terrifying elephant in the room?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is both of those things. So I have reached the point now with ChatGPT. I posted this the other day. I've renamed my ChatGPT Jarvis. So for those of you that have ever watched Iron Man, you'll get the reference. But so yes, so I now converse with Jarvis. My wife jokes that she thinks that I spend more time talking to Jarvis than I spend talking to her. I think that it has been. I know it has been a game-changing productivity tool for me. one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, how do you manage to do all the things that you do? How do you create all of the content? Like, how do you do all those things? Well, it's using tools like ChatGPT and things like that help me to scale my time and do things more efficiently. And so on that side of it, I'm eternally grateful, the amount of time that it takes me to do things. So I would not have the video version of my podcast if it weren't for an AI tool. When I record my show, it gives me individual feeds of me and my guests. So, let's just say that I've got 2 guests on the show. So I would get a video of my feed. I get a video of guest 1. I get a video of guest 2. And then I get a video of all of us together. So I've got 4 separate feeds to work with. I do not have the time, the energy, or the patience to sit down and properly edit, bouncing back and forth between all of those video feeds. I found an AI tool that will do that for me. It will edit a 1-hour podcast for me in about 30 seconds.
Wow.
It recognizes who's talking, and then it cuts the videos so that when I'm talking, I'm on screen. When a guest is talking, they're on screen. Every once in a while, it flips to a shot of both of us on screen. Like, there's literally, I'm using an AI tool that does that for me in 30 seconds. If that AI tool did not exist, the video version of my podcast would not exist. Being able to take a Free Advice Friday and downloading the transcript and putting the transcript into ChatGPT and saying, I need, from this transcript, I need you to give me 10 posts for social media, and hitting a button, and 10 seconds later having all the posts that I can now take. And now I've got a week's worth of content for social media. And to be clear, I'm not copying and pasting any of this content because most of it I don't think is good enough. But it's given me the direction for 10 different posts that I can now take those concepts, write them in my own words so that it's my voice. But that's how I'm able to repurpose, because I don't have time to go back and watch every episode of Free Advice Friday or read every transcript or whatever. So for things like that, I'm really excited. I can't tell you how much time I spend with ChatGPT on retirement planning and financial planning, and because I don't want to do the math, right? I have no desire to sit down and figure out if I have X number of dollars saved and I'm going to compound it for X number of years at X number of interest rate. And then, if I want to be able to retire and I want to withdraw this much salary, I'm not doing all that math. ChatGPT does that for me in 5 seconds. It's amazing. In that regard, it's like this magical, mythical unicorn that has come into my life that has allowed me to do things that I would have otherwise never been able to do. On the flip side, I lost one of my biggest clients, an e-learning client, to AI in 2024.
Okay.
They might come back.
They might, because I know that the guy that is producing the content, it was not his choice. It was the company's ultimately told him. He hates it, and he's hoping that ultimately they're gonna hate it as well. But that's a part of the reality of what is going on right now. And so I have to look at that side of it too. Now, because I don't want AI to kill my voiceover business, there are people who say, you shouldn't be using these tools. Well, okay, using ChatGPT to help me with financial planning has zero relevance to whether or not somebody's going to choose to use an AI voice to ultimately narrate their training course or whatever, right? Sure. And so I don't buy that argument. I don't know how existential the threat of AI is to voiceover at this point, genuinely. Do we have 5 years, 10 years, 25 years? Or is there always going to be human voices? I don't know. I'm not that smart. You got to have somebody else on the show who's way more intellectual than I am to figure that side of things out. But I mean, I can see where I've now seen where, it's having an impact. Now, I will also say that I've had conversations with some of my clients who are like, God, no, I'm not using that. It's garbage. It's garbage, and I don't want to use it. Or it's, it's the other thing is, I think probably one of the things that I've seen a couple of times is people don't realize that AI is not, at this point, it's not just plug and play. You don't just take your script and put it into the system, and then it instantly spits out the perfect, 20-minute e-learning narration.
No.
You're going to spend 6 hours farting around with tweaking all of the different elements of it, the speed, the pitch, the tone, the pronunciations, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of people don't realize that when they go in. And so I have had a couple of people who have played with it in the past and come back and be like, this is stupid. I don't got time for this. I'm like, no, you don't. Exactly. Just let me do this. I'm like, I could narrate, edit, and deliver a professional human voiceover in half the time that it's going to take you to generate your AI voiceover. Yep. You're not actually saving any money. And so I've had those conversations too. I think the biggest thing for me is just, I don't know if it's empathy, right? There is obviously some level of threat to us as voice actors, and we have to be concerned about that, and we have to pay attention to what's going on. But if your approach is that AI is evil and the people who use it are the enemy, you're never going to have productive conversations. Like, you're never going to convince your clients to stay with you if you just come at them, guns blazing or whatever. Like, so I have to remind myself that I got to sit and just have a conversation with somebody who's exploring a new technology the same way I'm exploring a new technology. And hopefully I can show them that there's a benefit to just working with me and not demonizing them for playing around and trying it out.
Absolutely. Marc, we've run out of time. Yeah. I could sit and talk to you all night. Yeah, absolutely. So where do people come if they want to gain the benefit of your training?
Yeah, VOpreneur.com is the main website. You can find everything there, the podcast, the Free Advice Friday, all the different coaching options and stuff like that I have. Everything is at VOpreneur.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to us. And I shall leave the last words to Margaret.
Well, if you've enjoyed listening to Marc as much as we have, then please do take a note of his information in the show notes, and do ask him anything. He will happily tell you what advice he can give you. And look at ours as well, and if we can help you, we will. But in the meanwhile, thank you very much for listening. Do listen to the next ones and spread the word. Tell everybody to listen to Voice Acting Unplugged.
Click subscribe.
And leave us any reviews. It's been great talking to you, Marc.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.